I want you to take a second to think about the one kid's book that shaped your identity as a child. It could be anything. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Magic Treehouse, that one with the badass cats. For me, there was this one Holy Grail series that I found especially captivating. A graphic novel with an imaginative art style and deep themes. It was none other than Amulet. I feel kinda insane whenever I bring it up though, because genuinely no one else that I've ever met has ever heard of this book, much less grew up reading it. It was only when I recently showed off my childhood book collection that I realized I actually wasn't alone. It wasn't all a dream. Not only that, but it came to my attention that the series had recently concluded, with its final book releasing last year. So obviously I felt I had a sacred obligation to my childhood self to go back and revisit these comics that I loved so dearly, just so that I could confirm whether they were as goated as I remember. I remember my parents buying the first book for me when they noticed that I was intrigued by the art style and the mysterious tone of the cover. Also, I just really liked the look of this guy. That was a major contributing factor. Kazu Kibuishi, creator of the Amulet series, says that he received his inspiration from both Eastern and Western cartoons, from works like Bone to Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I think this combination of influences pretty accurately sums up what's so unique about Amulet's aesthetic. It's a very interesting blend of two distinct styles from different parts of the globe. And while the art style drew me in, it was the world building that kept me coming back. The premise is pretty much your standard isekai formula. A young girl named Emily moves into her great-grandpa's old house with her family only to uncover a portal to another world beneath the basement. You know, Emily, her brother Naven, and her mother Karen find themselves in the mysterious land of Ellinia. It's this magical, steampunk fantasy world with animal dudes, freaky deaky octopus homies, and trees of wisdom. The story also has a bit of a Lord of the Rings type thing going on. You see, prior to this portal transporting, Emily happened to come into possession of a mysterious artifact, an amulet left by her great-grandfather, inventor Silas Charnon. This stone provides unimaginable power, but it also corrupts whoever bears it with evil thoughts. Oh shit. It's at this point that you might be thinking that this all sounds pretty tropey, because it is. But young me honestly didn't care. Amulet embraces every trope with the purest sincerity. There's a palpable dedication and passion to be found in Kibuishi's work, felt especially in the little pieces of lore that build up these fictional locations. Like the floating city of Celis, for example, a metropolis hidden in the clouds ever since the beginning of the Great Elf War. Isolated in the sky, its people are stuck in the past and quite literally controlled by fear. What I really appreciate about this series, especially in returning to it years later, is that it never feels like it talks down to its younger audience. As a wee lad, media that covered deep themes in a mature and earnest way was hard to come by. Now, did I watch every episode of Fanboy and Chum Chum growing up? Yes. Yes, I did. I was a stupid child. But at the same time, I was obsessed with shows like Star Wars The Clone Wars and Avatar The Last Airbender. I knew there was something different about these kinds of shows. They actually had important things to tell me. They were written with purpose and intention. Nobody really talks about it, but as a kid, that sort of thing is so valuable. And Amulet is no exception. It goes all in, balls to the walls, on themes like death, grief, human nature, and the corruptive influence of power. It doesn't just say, hey, do the right thing. It is brutally honest in saying, hey, so the potential for evil lives in us all, and if you don't learn to manage it, it will absolutely destroy your life and everyone you love. That's why, while the first couple books are fantastic, I feel like the series really hits its stride about a third of the way in with the introduction of Max Griffin. The Max story arc is so unbelievably peak. He acts as an incredibly solid foil to Emily. He's another stonekeeper who seems to have good intentions at first, until he goes yoink and has this super sick betrayal moment. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. Book 4 is the best one. They really do not shy away from leaning into the tragic parts of Max's story, and I have so much respect for that. Not only does it emphasize what's at stake for Emily and her relationship with the stone, but it also brings to light what pushes people down such dark paths. The voice feeds off of grief and fear. At the root of every monster is someone who lost something they once loved. For Max, it was his childhood best friend at the hands of the war. And for Emily, it could be her father, if she isn't careful. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Emily's dad f***ing dies like 3 pages into the first book. So as much as this is a story about war, power, and evil, it's also a story about acceptance and finding the strength to move on from grief. It's not like these themes are groundbreaking in fiction or anything, but as a scholastic kids book, it is unique in how seriously and realistically it handles these issues. As a kiddo, I can confidently say that I had never seen anything like it. Now, there's something we need to talk about. It's now that I've went back and read through the entire storyline, start to finish, if there was, say, a visual representation of the series' quality over time, it would look a little something like this. Yeah, I regret to inform you that the ending is pretty bad. Personally, I don't think it's bad enough to ruin the whole series, but it does leave a bad taste in your mouth. And for the most part, all of my feelings just boil down to disappointment. So please let me just air out my criticisms for a sec. The best way I can put it is like this. Mr. Kibuishi is quick to introduce new characters, but hesitant to actually develop them in meaningful ways. He sets up so many cool characters with lots of potential for depth, only for them to get sidelined and replaced with some other new character down the road, and so on and so on. Now I have to shout out my goat, Leon Redbeard. I love this dude. His character design, badass. His energy, based. He's basically Emily's mentor, and I was so excited to dig into his past, his flaws, and see how his relationship between him and Emily would grow. But he winds up being relegated to nothing more than a side character just a few books later, and his mentorship role is entirely replaced by a new character, Vigo Light. So Leon never got that depth, progression, or moment in the spotlight that I feel like he really deserved. I could say the same for Allie, I could say the same for Miskit, I could say the same for Riva. It definitely reads like there is a lack of consistent direction in the writing, and like Kazu was just making it up as he went. Then there's the drastic tonal switch in book 8 where it just turns into Star Wars. I totally understand trying to switch things up and keep the ideas fresh, but you look at this, and then you look at this, and it's just like, how did we get here? This isn't even the same anymore. And finally, the ending simply isn't that satisfying. After all the buildup, in the final book, Emily just kinda goes God mode and defeats her stone's voice without much of a fight at all. The tensions that had been rising through the series just kind of fizzles out. And I gotta be honest, the last book was a struggle to get through because the stakes just feel so low. It all feels kind of rushed, kind of flat, and very disappointing. Despite these shortcomings, I must admit that this series still holds a very special place in my heart. And no, I don't think that's just the nostalgia talking. There is genuinely so much to love about the art, the design, and the themes of these books. Its imaginative world building still inspires me to this day, and what it has to say about power and responsibility is something that every wee lad should hear at some point. It's one of those pieces of media that I am so grateful that I had growing up. It was very surreal in the final pages to return to that decrepit basement that started it all, over a decade later. It kind of felt like giving a fist bump to my younger self, saying, "Hey bro, we made it." To Kazu Kibuishi, thank you for making my childhood. And all I'll say is, we better get that TV show adaptation, I swear to God!